Everyone, welcome to the first class of tech training and thank you for watching this video. Before we get started, please log in to SAS On Demand using your login ID and password. If you don't already have your login and password, please refer to the how to get started video to create your login and password. Once you log in, you'll see a page that looks something like this. Then under application, please double click your SAS Studio, which will take you to the SAS Code web-based development environment, which looks like this. The layout is pretty simple. You have the code section where you can type your code, and then you have these pages where you can delete your program, upload your data, create a new data, import the data, also has libraries and other features. So with that, let's begin our first lecture. First, I would like to take a moment to explain what SAS can do. First of all, one of the key functions of SAS is analytical power. Companies like pharmaceutical, health insurance, and financial industry often use SAS because you can analyze very, very large data set that it's beyond Excel's capability. It also has data warehousing and data mining features that you can use, which we will cover in this class, and other business visualization. So the objective of this class is that I'm going to show you how to use SAS and program yourself to do a lot of different analysis. I will teach you SAS programming skill, the language, to manage and analyze health science data, because this is the real power of SAS. This course will also help you pass the SAS Base Certification exam offered by SAS Institute and help you find a job in the related industry. If interested, please contact our admin, Olivier, for more information. So let's see what SAS certified base programmers are capable of. SAS-based certified programmers are expected to import, export raw data files. This file could be anything from text file, Excel file, and SAS dataset file, or any other file format that you can think of. Second is manipulate and transform the data. This means we're going to be able to manipulate the data and transform, such as long format data to wide format. Manipulate means you're going to convert character variable to numeric variable or vice versa. We're also going to teach you how to combine SAS dataset, meaning let's say you have multiple data sets, we can combine them or we can split them. Also going to show you how to create basic detail and summary report using SAS procedures. And lastly, identify and correct the data. So any program should be able to know how to fix the program, right? The next is SAS Institute exam content. There are 70 multiple choice questions, and the exam topics include accessing the data, creating data structure, managing data, generating reports, and handling errors. I will also provide you a mock-up exam in 10 weeks, assuming that you will be taking this course, one course per week. However, if you're the fast learner type, then you should be able to take the mock-up exam sooner. The next slide, I have the SAS window environment. Please note that this is the layout of a real SAS. However, the SAS On Demand, which is free, offered by SAS, looks quite similar. So let's dive into the anatomy of this SAS window environment. So first, you have the log. This is a part that if you type something, it will show the process. So if you had an error in your code, it didn't run, it should show up on your log. Then you have the editor window. This is where you type in your program. Then you have this Explorer where you have the libraries. So let's compare that with the SAS On Demand. So here is the editor where we're going to be able to type. And here is our log that has error or warning notes. And then this is a result of the program. And then here is the Explorer where we can delete the program, create the new program, upload the data, and then here are the libraries. And then we're going to show you how to use all these features later. So now that we know how to log in and get access to the SAS on demand, now that we know what SAS can do, let's look at what a SAS dataset is. Dataset, as we all know, it contains information. If you think of it as an Excel, please think of it as that the first column are called variables. So in this example, I have ID, that's a variable, name is a variable, age is a variable, and each row represents observation. So in this simple data set, I have 6 observation and 6 variables, right? Then let's look at what type of data SAS can handle. SAS can handle numeric and character data. So numeric is just the numbers and only allows the numbers. And character can be anything or any combination of characters, including alphabet, numbers, and special character. One thing to point it out is that number can also be a character. This is where the manipulation comes in. Meaning, let's say we have a date, July 19th, 1990. This can be a numeric variable, this can be a character variable. When you are transforming the data from one to another, this process is what we call the transforming the data or manipulating the data. You want to feed SAS the correct data input in order to analyze correctly. And that will come in the later courses. Okay, so with that, now that we have an idea of what the data set is and what kind of a data point there are, I'm going to show you a very, very simple set of code that demonstrates. So even though the line codes are small, please note that this has everything that you need to know. SAS consists of data step and proc step. Data step sounds like it's going to create a data. What is a proc step? To me, my interpretation of proc is that it's an action, it's a verb. So whenever you have a data, you're telling SAS what to do with that data. So in this example, proc print, I want SAS to print me this data. So let's go by point. So in this example, I have a data Bob. You notice how I have a semicolon? Semicolon is like a period in a common English sentence. So every time there's a line of a code, it must end with a semicolon. So in this example, I have a data Bob. I'm telling SAS that I have a variable called feet, that is 5. Inches, that is 6. I also want to derive a new variable called height, and I'm giving SAS the equation that it is feet, which is 5, times 12 plus inches, which is 6. So let's go here and type in our very first program. You notice how data pops up? And one of the cool features about SAS on Demand is that it shows you what this is. So data is a syntax. You notice how it's a bold blue means I'm starting a code. You must have a space, then let's enter our dataset name, which I'm going to call it a Bob, and you can call this whatever you want. If your name is Kathy, you can call it Kathy. So I'm just going to go with Bob. The second line I'm going to enter feet is 5, semicolon, inches is 6, height is feet times 12 plus inches, run. So you notice how this is blue, this is bold blue, meaning that this is my paragraph. I'm telling SAS I'm going to build a dataset named Bob, and here are my information. And it always have to end with the run because we're going to click this guy that looks like he's running. So here I have the output data in my SAS on Demand that has feet, inches, and height. So this is the first data. So this code becomes this output data. Pretty simple and cool, huh? So next thing we have to notice is that you notice how this feet is black, but this height is blue. Why? Because this feet is we're manually inputting the data point. However, this height is a Derived variable, that's going to be in a numeric format. So if you go here, you see how height is a numeric variable, inches and feet. So SAS knows it's very important whether SAS takes your data as a numeric or character. So in this example, they're all numeric, and you can see it in your code as well. So let's see what a proc step does. Like I mentioned earlier, this is more like a verb. So I'm going to put proc print. I want to print the data Bob. So SAS will automatically remember the very last run statement that you just read. So here we have proc print data equals Bob means I want to print the data set Bob. So let's run this guy. Now the result is shown on the result, feet, inches, height. So this is kind of what I meant by how we're telling SAS feet is a variable, inch is a variable, height is a variable, and this is a data point. So this is the basic step of SAS code anatomy, where we always have a data step and a proc step. So if you're simply working on a data set manipulation, transforming of the data, you'll probably only need to use the data step. But if you want to do something with it, that's going to have to be proc step, okay? So in the next example, what I'm going to show you is how to read in a data inside the SAS program. So in this data, I have data, new data, input, ID, sex, age, cards, and these are my data points, and we're going to use the proc print again. So I'm going to copy and paste my code, but please type in your code. So let's do it together. So here, you notice the data is blue, and I have a data set named new data. Again, you can name this whatever you want. I can call it 1 or new data. And you notice how input is blue. That's the syntax. What I'm telling SAS is, hey, I'm going to create a new data. Here are my input variables. First is ID, second column is sex, third is age. Cards basically means here are my data points. So you notice how ID and age appears blue, but sex isn't. And there's this weird dollar sign. So I'm going to show you what each line means. So ID is a numeric variable, so it appears as blue. Sex is a character variable, and I need to tell SAS, hey, there's a character variable coming. Then there's age, which is a numeric variable. You also have to note that there's a space in between everything. If you don't have a space, then SAS won't know whether there is a difference, whether this variable is called ID sex. But by having a space, you'll notice ID is a one variable, sex is one variable, age is one variable. So with this, let's run this code. So here, I have the data set, ID, sex, and age. So let's take this moment to play with the code. So what happens if you have a typo and you accidentally have a space because new data should be 2 words? Let's run this. Now you get 2 data sets. One data set named work new and another one called data. They look identical. What this did is, you're telling SAS, I'm creating 2 data sets. One data set name is data, another data set name is new. In here, you should also note that the columns here shows that you have 3 variables, ID in a numeric, sex in a character, age in a numeric variable, right? So okay, that's clear. What about this mysterious dollar sign? What happens if I accidentally forget to put the dollar sign in there? Let's run it. You notice how SAS did not recognize the character variable because by default, SAS knows numbers, but it's just the default how it is. So if you don't have a dollar sign and you're not telling SAS that there is a character variable coming, SAS will not be able to recognize. And this is only true when you're inputting your own data inside the SAS program. So when you're putting in your own data, such as this, then you must have a dollar sign to tell SAS that this is a character variable. This is very important, so please take a note. And let's see what else. What if you have a typo? You don't like the cards, and then you just put card. You notice how it quickly changes card into black font? Then it's not a syntax. So let's put the S back in here. Also note that SAS is not case sensitive. So pretty much That's kind of all there is to know in this code. So we also, again, have the data step that starts with the data and ends with the run statement. And we have a proc step where we're trying to print the data set that we just created that starts with the proc step and ends with the run step. Why are we using the run step? Because SAS has this guy that's running. So that's why it's always running. The program is running, per se. So with that example, let's move on to the next example. So the next example is going to demonstrate automatic looping function. So in this data called master, I'm again using the input statement. Why? Because I'm inputting my own data. So this is a key feature. And throughout the course, we're going to show you how to read in a file. When you're reading in a file, we're not using an input statement. We're going to be using a statement called live name. So this input statement is only needed when you need to tell SAS what your column variables are. So in this case, I only have one variable called X, and I'm also going to derive a new variable called Y. And I'm going to give a quick example, 2 times X, okay? So can someone guess what it's going to do? Hold on, let me close this so I don't get timed out. So can someone guess what kind of a data set we're going to see in the data master? Yes, we're going to see a variable called X, which is 569, and we're also going to see a variable called Y, which is 2 times 5, 2 times 6, 2 times 9. So let's see if that's really what we get. So I'm going to copy and paste. You can type it down for the practice purpose, but I'm just going to copy and paste. Let's add a run statement back. So I'm going to run this. So here, as predicted, I have a variable called x569, that's 569, and then I just derive a new variable called y, which is 2 times x, 5 times 2, 6 times 2, 9 times 2. Looks like my data set was derived correctly. So now I have a data set name called master. Why is there work on it? That's because we're going to get it in lecture 3 that unless you save your data set, it's going to get housed in a temporary format called work library, a server, a folder, however you want to name it. It's going to get stored in that location. So that's why there's work.master. So let's move on to see what other procs and data step we are going to learn in the next 7 lectures. So let's see more about the procs. So we understand that data has to do something with data. Manipulation, formatting, deriving new variable, anything to do with the data belongs to data. What actually it does, in order to analyze, we need to use a proc step. So here are some of the key procs that SAS can handle. One is proc content. So imagine you have a data set that has 50 variables, even 100 variables. It takes time to know what is your data dictionary is. So simply having proc content, it will give you an output that shows all the names of your variables in your data set and the label if there was a label associated with it. If you want to format your variable, such as the date example I provided earlier, changing a date format from July 9th, 1990 into a numeric version of the July 9, then you're going to have to use a proc format. And then there's a proc print that I just showed you. And there's a proc sort, which basically is going to sort, but is a very handy tool. And then there's some graphical procs where you can create charts, plots. And then there are many more statistical procs. Next example, we're going to show you how to do a proc univariate because it's a very useful tool that's kind of show you all the information that you need. So let's move right ahead and practice what proc univariate and proc G-chart can do for us. So in this example, I called it data problem 1, input trig. So my variable name is trig. I'm also going to derive a new variable called L-trig, which is log of trig, that trig, okay? And cars, and then there's all these data points. That just means there could be more. It's not limited. Then there's also a title. Please put your name. Assignment 1, problem 1. Proc print, we learned it. So here comes the useful part, proc univariate. So I'm going to copy this part. actually, I'm going to copy this much. Let's copy this. And then I'm going to copy the remaining of it. Okay. And let's go back to our SAS on demand. So remember, you always have to put the semicolon in the run statement. Okay, so here we go. Data problem 1. Input, trig, L trig is log of trig cards. So let's run our data set to make sure that our data set is correct. Looks like I got the trig and I got the L trig. So let's look at the next line. So title statement pretty much gives a name to your output. So imagine you are running multiple analysis. You want to be able to find out which output belongs to which. So here I'm just going to put my name here. And then proc print, we already did that. So let's run this. Now it shows it's my assignment number 1, problem 1, and my data set. So let's see what proc univariate does. This is a useful statistic tool where you just have to put proc univariate data, which data you're referring to. In this example is problem 1. var is a syntax. You need to tell SAS which variable you're referring to that you want to do a univariate analysis. So we have trig and L trig run. So let's run this. So here it shows the output result of my proc univariate procedure. Here it says the variable trig, I have 15 observation, sum of weights, mean, standard deviation, skewness, all this useful information, ranking, extreme observation, testing of the mean, whether it was statistically different. And then if you scroll down, then you have it for the L trig as well, right? So if you want to know how many observations you have and what is the mean or anything related to this kind of information, then you know what SAS procedure to use, proc univariate. So let's go back to our program, code, and then let's use proc gchart. So here, what I did was I told SAS I want to graph, bar graph. So VVAR means vertical bar of trig, L trig, level 5 means I want a bar graph with 5 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, this one is missing this. So I'm able to graph the frequency of the L trig and then the trig. And here the log says, okay, I just ran the proc gchart, this code, no error. So what if I have an error? Then what's going to happen? Let's give it an error. Let's say there was a typo and I didn't spell the L trig right and I put L try. Let's run this. I still get the data because my code related to the data is correct. But if I go to the log, I have an error message now. So it says that it actually read in the trig because this SAS on demand has a spell check. So, however, you notice that I actually didn't get the bar graph because my code was incorrect. So this example demonstrates everything that we've been learning so far with the data step and then the proc step and more proc step that has univariate and gchart feature. Okay? One question, how come proc print data, I have to tell SAS which data that I'm trying to print? Proc univariate, I also told SAS which data set I'm referring to, but how come proc gchart I don't have to? It's not that you don't have to, it's because SAS will always remember the very last data set that you just ran. So even if you don't have this, it will still run because you just ran this data problem 1. However, let's say you ran problem 1 and then say there was another data set called problem 2. Then SAS will run whichever was the latest, meaning problem 2. So it's just a good habit to always type in which dataset you're referring to. Okay? So then let's move on to the step-by-step, more descriptive proc print, so we at least know what to do with the proc print. So proc print data equals dataset name. If you only want to print certain variable, then you can also have a var statement and just list the variables of interest. So as we saw, proc print will give you a printout of the data set or the variable that you're interested in. Okay, it's pretty simple proc step. The next, the proc univariate. As you saw, it's an analysis tool. When you have a numerical value, it will give you all the information about that variable that's needed. And then again, the G chart. So it tells you need to say what the V bar, the vertical bar you want. So in this example, if you just want trig, that's the variable of interest, then you don't have to put it in, then you'll get the V bar. But please note that the key is that this is the proc syntax and it must follow by V bar. What happens if you forgot to put the V? Then it will not run because the syntax associated with the G chart is V bar, okay? And then there's a H bar for the horizontal bars. And that's it for the lecture 1. So if you want to learn more, register now to learn SAS programming. Learn SAS programming within this video and course material and become a member to learn at your own pace and take the mock-up exam to prepare you for the Base certification exam. And here are some of the students who took this course previously from Amgen and Gilead, etc. So I hope you enjoyed this video and please click on the homework part. Thank you.